Thank you, Emily. That was so great to watch the previous two presentations. I've already learned a ton, so thank you so much for inviting me. I am thrilled. I got to take advantage of GitHub Teams and read the docs more now from this presentation. So I am Paul Nagy. I'm here representing the OHDSI community, which is an open science community trying to create evidence in medicine. Just to give you a quick background on what, and so this is going to be how we're using Bitergia to help us understand our open source ecosystem. Just to understand who we are, is what we have done is we work with real world data. So we look at electronic medical record data and claims data. We've created a common analysis or common data format for EHR data, like your medical records, like your labs, your meds, your procedures that were done. And then we actually create that in a standardized model. And what's interesting is we actually leave the data locally because there's a lot of privacy concerns related with it. But we've developed a ton of software to do analysis on that data. So we move code and not data. So we use federated learning. So we do large studies across many institutions looking for treatment effect of medications, looking for progression of different diseases within medicine. So what's nice about this is when we publish in computable phenotypes or descriptions of our disease and our analysis. And so we've created a large community of people who've written software. The software goes into health systems and goes into, and then we run it locally on data. And then we are actually able to create analysis and then be able to share the meta-analysis to do large studies. For instance, were incredibly busy during the COVID pandemic. We were the group that debunked hydrochloroquine. We were heavily involved with a lot of the evaluations of medications and vaccines in terms of their effectiveness in the population. What's exciting about this is we've built a large community. We have over 450 systems of databases now of EHR data throughout the world, representing over 960 million unique patients. We've done studies on over 120 million patients on secondary medication effects for diabetes. We've done, so we actually do hundreds of network studies each year. This is actually being used by the European Medical Agency as the real world surveillance for safety of medications. And so this has been, this is an important community. This is an incredibly dedicated volunteer community. Everything we do is open science and open source. And it's all been about trying to create reproducible evidence in medicine using these federated techniques. And so this community, so I help lead the open source working group of this community, and it is a large community using many different programming languages, many different techniques that we're using. And our goal is to do two things. One is we want to keep it growing, so we want to engage new contributors to our repos. But we also want to instill how do we look at all of our repos and have a level of governance so that we can safely deploy our software inside secure health systems and other environments where we can get reproducible results off of patient health information. And so we were part of the Phase 1 POSE Award, which was great, and we're also part of the Johns Hopkins Open Source Program Office. And so just to give you a sense of what we've been doing, we host a developers conference each year, and we post it on YouTube. We've created a mentoring program for new contributors so that we can assign them or find their interesting partners within our open source community. So we're always looking to actively mentor and bring people together. And we've also launched a technology advisory board within the last year to look at across our ecosystem to make it more scalable, stable, and supportable for our whole ecosystem. And so as part of our technology advisory board, we cover a lot of our major repositories and platforms, and basically trying to figure out how we can align standards. One thing is we have committed to is being technology agnostic. Most health systems are on one different cloud vendor, using a different database, have different technologies. And so we've made the lofty goal of really trying to be platform independent and be able to work with them in their environment. To do this, you would need to have good GitHub Actions. You need to have a large ecosystem. And so today we have over 262 repositories. Over 30 million lines of code have been added. The good news is I think 15 million lines of code have been removed as well. So there's a lot of refactoring that goes on. We have close to 700 developers that have been involved in this development, over 31 official organizations, and we'll show you how we affiliate them with Bitergia. And a lot of activity. And so with all this activity, I would say about of those 262 repositories, about 84 of them we've identified as core to actually running software. As if anyone's here read Working in Public, a lot of repos can be toys or clubs or stadiums, and we've really focused on the core ones, which are more stadiums and federations, as ones that we need to make sure that are going to be reliable for working within a health system. But if anyone's ready, I highly recommend that book. So here's the challenge. Here's what everyone's worried about, is that one of our repos that someone's been maintaining for a long time is that little link in the chain. And then if that breaks or causes us a vulnerability in the software, then we're going to create a risk for reproducibility of science and also for running that software within our local institutions. And so that is one of our major risks. And so we want to make sure that we have a global community that is connecting that and lining those up, those little dots, so that we can support that environment. And so to do that, so here are the questions that we typically ask. Is how do we know a repo is healthy? How do we know it's still active? How do we know that they're actually responding to issues? Are they responding? Is the time to first issue response in a productive manner? Are they becoming overwhelmed? Are they down to one contributor doing everything? Understanding the life cycle of a repo and the group within a repo is really important. And how do we make sure that each repo that's critical, at least, is onboarding new contributors? And I am sure that, especially in a volunteer community, these types of questions are of concern to everyone managing open source repos, especially within a large volunteer community. And so to do that, we really leveraged Bitergia, which basically mines all the data from Git and GitHub, puts it into a nice Elasticsearch system for us to analyze, and then provided us with Kibana to ask questions to our heart's desire within the environment. So here's a typical view of Bitergia, and it's one where you can look at, this is the overview page where we can kind of look at how pull requests are happening. We can look at different repos over time, and we can actually do some date filtering. So I thought it might be better just to kind of give you a live demo of this. This is the one that I typically use. This is one that's looking at activity, and you can filter this by over different time frames by organization. Because every GitHub contributor or Git contributor has their email, Bitergia tries to affiliate that email with an organization. And there's actually tools inside of where we can identify high contributors and associate them with an organization. I find this to be really useful for a large consortium volunteer organizations. And so this has been very helpful to see the level of contributions from different organizations over time, and making sure that we are diversifying the number of organizations that are really supporting the mission of OHDSI. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen, since I have about 4 minutes left before I have to hand it over. And I wanted to show you what the actual interface looks like and the type of questions that we ask of the interface. Can you see my browser?
No, we cannot. I think you need to start screen sharing again.
Let me try it again. How about now?
Yep.
Good. Excellent. And so this, there's no way I can show you all the data this quickly, but what's nice about this is I can easily filter data. So I can look at an organization over time. I can actually, and then say, like, one question, this is a major organization that does a lot of software development for us, but I can show you that over, say, the last, so if I go to years, and if I say over the last, say, 10 years, I can actually say, how is that over time, that contribution level, let's see if I got that right. I look at the number of commits and authors has actually been increasing over time. So that organization we're super happy with, but I can drilling in at it at different levels. I can look at it at the repository level, and I also can look at it at the organizational level as I kind of zoom in and zoom out, looking at the different metrics of issues and pull requests and commits as a way of trying to look at the strength of a repo. So let me jump over to let's see, the Git overview. Yeah, and so now I'm just going to filter this on OHDSI, and I can then look at, let's say, look at a particular repository as well. So here's a very active one, is a vocabulary one. and we can kind of see what organizations have been committing to it. And let's see if I can scroll up a little bit. So I can see, look at so you can see different organizations over time taking different roles on this repo, but I can see there's more than one organization that are actively involved in its development. I can then say, filter this back to the last year and say what, make sure that it's still being supported. There we go, update. It's really important to have data to try to understand it. It's hard to figure out what the health of a repo is, and the best way to do it is by looking at it and just kind of looking at it from different perspectives of the commits, the issues, the pull requests, the organizations of it, and then trying to give us a sense of its vitality. And so we haven't come up with a way of singly defining a core metric for health, but this has been really beneficial for us to look at. So we can look at it from an issues perspective. And so it is just phenomenal the amount of data you're getting out of GitHub. And so for me, I'm interested in, say, I want to know by repository, and I kind of want to know by repository, let's see, how does our vocabulary team do in their time to, I guess this is on average. Let's see if I can get the number of repositories, the number of people responding to the issues. I can look at, and I can often look at some of the time to open response for certain questions. Usually we look to the time for the first response. I don't know if I've been able to tease that out of this data just yet, as opposed to the time to when the issue is being closed. I don't know if people have any other questions, but this has been a really important tool. We can look at it from the repositories themselves. I generally don't really look at the number of stars and forks and things like that and subscribers. I'm really looking at the actual people who are contributing and the people who are submitting issues into the repository, because the issue submitters are great candidates to be your next, to be able to groom them or to be able to help mentor them to become contributors. And so I find that people who submit pull requests are also fantastic candidates to be able to onboard as new contributors as well. And so we try hard to be able to track how the repos are responding to their pull requests and from other contributors outside of their core group. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to hand this off to Georg, who's got just a couple minutes left.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. I appreciate the good overview of what you're doing with Bitergia. It's really an excellent use case because you're really looking at an ecosystem. And when you look at GitHub, you get GitHub Insights with some repository level metrics. And using Bitergia, you can go outside of just a single repository to see the ecosystem and also relationships within the repositories and the contributors. I want to briefly just introduce Bitergia. I have 1 minute left. Bitergia is almost as old as GitHub. It actually predates GitHub as university research, trying to understand how is open source software built, what are the processes, the contributors, how do they interact, how do they collaborate. And so from trying to understand that, we build tools to do that. They're all fully open source. And the business is set up around consultancy. We're helping with strategy around how do we analyze open source projects and communities, creating those analyses and reports. And then the platform itself, which you already saw Paul demo, is the platform is built to explore the data and drill in, zoom out, and collect data from everywhere that the community is active, not just GitHub, but also forums and mailing lists, and really see where the community is collaborating and contributing. And this is fully open source. The tool is called Grimoire Lab. If you go at the bottom of the notes page, there's some links. We built a community of practice around analyzing open source communities and project health. It's called Chaos. So I invite you to join us there and I believe we are out of time. So thank you so much for being here and having me.